This is Adjuster Stories, brought to you by Adjuster TV and Veteran Adjusting School. And now your host, Guy Grand.
Hi, welcome today to Adjuster Stories with Guy Grand. I'm here with one of our Voss graduates, Chuck, who graduated back in July of 2020. That was right in the middle of the whole freaking COVID deal, wasn't it?
It sure was. I don't remember. I think we wore masks in class.
Yeah, I think we were able to not wear masks in class, but we had to wear masks everywhere else. And
Yeah,
when you guys were in the houses together, you were able to not wear masks. That was a pain
yeah.
in the butt, dude.
Oh, yeah.
But you know what? We got through that whole pandemic, only closed the one class when they closed down the whole country.
Right.
And everybody that came was good, you know.
Yeah. And
Cheryl
we got
said,
it done. We got it done and we got out into the field.
there you go. It's
Yeah,
perfect, as it should be.
exactly.
Yeah, today I'm really excited to talk to you, Chuck, because there's a couple reasons. One is you were like the oldest person that ever came to the school at that point, or
Oh,
at least
really?
one
I
of
didn't
them.
know that.
Yeah, at least one of them. And I know that Cheryl was always hesitant to take older folks because of their computer literacy and all the rest of that kind of stuff. So, um, we'll tell little stories about you in class and how that went. But,
Oh,
but
that's wonderful.
like you said before we got on here, you got out in July 2020, and would you say you've run over 2,000 claims since? Almost
I
all day
have.
claims.
I've been doing almost all daily. I did deploy a couple of times, but most of my volume is daily. And I'm just closing down the year here, but over 510 claims this year. We had a real slow start, but the last quarter was really great. So
Yeah,
that's how it's been. It's been about 500 claims a year.
that's incredible. It's awesome. Um, so tell me about your experience at the school, being the old guy.
Well, um, I felt like I had a lot riding on it. I was very vested in doing well at the school. Um, my career was not related with anything construction oriented or insurance oriented. I knew very little about construction or any of the related topics to adjusting. Um, but I wanted to be an adjuster. I had done a lot of research online, and I thought it would be a really good career for me at this point in my life. I went to the bank. I sat down with the banker, and I took out a $25,000 loan to start, uh, paying for the school and start me off. And it's not a lot of money when you think about starting a business, but it was a lot of money to me.
So
And
it's a lot of money if you don't know what the outcome's going to be.
sure. So, when I got there, I was all in,
Right.
but I struggled. Um, I'm I'm not the quickest of learners. When I learn something, I'm really, really good with it. But sometimes it takes a while for things to click on in my mind, and then I can really do well. And I felt for the whole course that I was the worst student in the class. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's how I felt. And my roommate was a really good guy, but he was a home inspector, so I felt so far behind him and it was kind of scary. Like I didn't want to fail, and I felt like I was on the border of failing a lot of the time. When we started the storm week, um, I could hardly keep up. Um, and I had a real hard time sketching one of the houses, and I just thought I was done. I thought I wasn't going to be able to do it. And,
And look at you
luck,
now.
yeah, now I'm making a living
Yeah,
and enjoying it. And so it wound up being a fantastic opportunity for me, and I'm glad that I took the leap. But it was definitely a leap, you know.
yeah. It's interesting because the whole time through Voss, and we tell you guys the very first day, this isn't a school, this is a training facility. But so many people, like yourself, but so many people come through the school thinking, oh, because it says school, it's a pass fail. How am I doing? Oh, I'm not doing well. But you know what, dude? Your commitment, like you said, to figuring it out and learning it was stellar. There's no way
Yeah,
you were gonna, there's no way you were gonna fail because we were there holding your hand,
yeah,
you
I
know?
appreciate everything, and I appreciate you saying that. It was a really life-changing experience for me. I mean, quite literally, um, most of my professional career, I was actually in Tokyo, Japan, doing something
Right,
completely different. I was an executive recruiter, which is a very white collar job and very, suit and tie every day.
right.
And then, here I am with a tool belt climbing ladders. Um, but 4.5 years later, I'm in a very good position financially. I enjoy what I do. I feel a lot of pride in having built the company up. And it just, I couldn't have imagined it turning out as good as it turned out, really.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what? That's pretty much what everybody says that came through the school. So
I'm glad it's
yeah,
good for everybody. Yeah.
and I'm gonna tell a little Chuck Willen story here. Um, I remember when you left, you were the you still didn't have that self-confidence that you were going to be able to make it. And you got out there and we got you hooked up with an IA firm and right. Would you got six claims your first round or something like that?
Yeah, the dispatch lady sent me 6 claims, and I thought that was great.
And they were all with PAs.
Every one of them was with a PA, and I was freaking out. And I called you up and I said, Guy, all my claims are with the PA. What am I going to do? And you said, well, let me call up and I'll talk to her about it. And you did. And she said, well, basically all our claims are with PAs. So he better get used to it now. And
Yeah,
and we did. I went out there. I remember the first one. I had a young PA out on it, and he got up on the roof with me, which they don't typically do where I am anyway. And but
right.
he did, and we did it. And 2 years later, I was deposed on that claim.
On that same claim.
Same
Yeah,
claim. First
seriously.
claim I ever did, I got deposed on. Yeah.
Just for those of you that are listening to this, Chuck is down in South Florida, where all the PAs live. So yeah, and I remember us going through that first claim, and you were holding on to it, and you were like, "Well, what do I do? What about this? What about that?" And I remember because I did this with my son. I remember like, Chuck, just jump in the pool, pull the trigger, turn the claim in. We'll
Yeah,
figure it out later. They'll tell you what they want. But that's for a new adjuster, that's what they got to do. Do the best you can, pull the trigger, throw it up there, and then when you get that the file reviewer or the DA, whoever gets back in touch with you, that's where you're really going to learn what they're looking for. Because we don't
you
know.
know,
You go to the school, you can do whatever you want, but nobody's going to know until you really are talking to the people that you're working with for what it is they're looking for.
it's
So,
funny, Guy, but still now I, I get to a place and I get my work done and I'm not sure if it's right or if it's wrong, but it's what I think is the best, um, the best that I can get to, and I send it in. And a lot of times it comes back with the desk adjuster's comments, or the desk adjuster gives me a ring and we work together. And it really is, or it should be, a joint effort between the desk adjuster and the field adjuster. And once you realize that, then it takes a lot of the pressure off. It really does.
so much so, so much so. And we spent so much time when we were in class, and this is for anybody listening. Your file reviewer and those desk adjusters are your best friends. They are not your adversaries. They're not trying to, you know, call you out or say you're bad or anything else. Everybody has the same conclusion in mind. Let's get this claim closed. Let's get it paid. Let's move on. If it opens back up, if it goes to deposition, whatever the case may be, but keeping that process going and really working with those file reviewers and those other people to help get that claim closed. And, bottom line is those are the people that get us paid. Until we do what they need, we're not going to get paid. And so many times, Chuck, and you know this too, but you think you did something, the file reviewer wants something different. And you're like, well, no, I'm right. Well, you might be right, you might be wrong, but it isn't what they want. So it doesn't really matter what we think. It matters what they need to close the claim.
I was thinking about two things about that. Number one is, in most cases with most carriers, the desk adjuster owns the claim.
Correct.
They're the ones who are doing the final adjustment. They're the ones who apply the policy to the claim, and they're the ones who apply the expert judgments to the claim. Remember, or maybe people don't know this, but we're not experts in the eyes of the court. We're just witnesses.
Right.
So, when I'm on a roof, I can tell what my opinion is, but unless you're a structural engineer, you're not really an expert, right?
True.
But
True.
the desk adjuster applies those expert reports and the policy to what I see and what I opine, what my opinion is. And then they come out with the final product. And
Yeah.
I on some of the forums online and everything, you see these adjusters who get all bent out of shape that the desk adjuster changes their estimates. And I want to say to them, hey, what industry do you think you're in? Like, it's not your estimate, it's the insurance company's estimate, it's their claim, it's their company. And the desk adjuster, in there are cases when the desk adjuster and the field adjuster are the same person. I've had to do some claims like that too. But the vast majority of the time, we're the eyes, the ears, the measuring tape, and the desk adjuster gets to make the decision. And we got to understand what position we're playing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
And
know, and
I think ego plays a lot into that too, right?
yeah, for
Because
sure.
man, I was a contractor and so I know what this should be. And so then our ego starts playing where the desk adjuster is looking on the other side saying, well, this policy has an exclusion to that, or this policy doesn't have this. And so,
Right.
yeah, like you said, we can opine all day long of what we
Yeah.
think or should or shouldn't, but it really isn't our call.
Yeah.
And I think that's so many times that's where people go south when they're out in the field. And they spend so much mental energy wanting to be right because their ego wants them to be right when really just whatever you want. You want me to change the estimate? Change the estimate per file reviewer's request.
You know
Done. End of
what's better
story.
than being right, Guy? Being
Getting paid.
done.
Being
Being
done.
done and getting paid.
Being
You know,
done.
yeah, man.
Exactly.
I have a friend um, who is a fantastic adjuster. He is just great. He knows everything. He's been a desk adjuster, he's been a file reviewer. He knows construction really well. He knows policy, and very, very, very few of his claims get kicked back to him. I mean, when he sets it up, it's good to go.
Right.
But I make more money than him, and we work for the same carrier.
Right.
And the reason is that I out hustle him. I do more claims a year. And, if you were to ask a file reviewer whose claim would they rather review, his or mine, I'm sure it's his. But the bottom line is they like the work that I do enough to give me a lot of claims.
Thanks.
And the bottom line for me is I get to make more money than him if I'm willing to work harder than him, which I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's very happy with he said it to me a dozen times. He only wants 8 to 10 claims a week, and that's it. And I'm looking to do 15 claims a week.
Right.
So it's a big difference. And but the reason I bring it up is because you don't have to be perfect. You have to learn, and you have to be open, and hopefully you're not making the same mistakes again and again. But and being prompt really is a big deal. Getting these
Huge.
things done quickly. Um, you know, and IA firms will be more than happy to give you as many claims as they have
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
your area.
And even though you're turning more claims than he's turning, you're still turning a consistent work product. I can almost
Sure,
guarantee, Chuck, that your photo reports always look the same
they look exactly the same.
all the
And in
time.
fact, I guess we'll get into this a little bit, but I am deposed quite often because of the market that I'm in. And when I'm deposed, they ask me, is this your photo report? And I say, well, I don't remember putting that report out, but that looks exactly like the photo reports that I put out, and my name's on it. And so I think it's my photo report.
So it must be mine.
Yep,
Yeah,
must be mine.
we're gonna get into the whole deposition thing because that's the other reason I'm really excited about talking to you today because more than me, more than anybody I know, you have probably done more depositions just for the fact of where you're at. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's to get back to the whole consistency thing. If you don't turn in a consistent work product, then it doesn't matter how quick you are, you're not going to get those files. The guy who turns in a consistent work product is going to keep getting the files. Your
Right.
friend who turns in a perfect work product, he probably works as many hours a week as you do. He just only does 10 claims. But he's putting
Yeah,
in
he
that
might.
thought process and all the rest of that, which is great as well. But if you're out there and you really want to make money, which is what most of the people listening to this are all about, then consistency in your work product, so your photo report always looks the same. Your estimates are always lined out the same. And that way, once your file reviewers, your desk adjusters get to know you, then they can keep giving you more claims because when you get one, and you know what, the other thing too, I am assuming this, but I'm pretty darn sure that it's true, is because you turn in a consistent work product, if 5 adjusters turn in stuff, those file reviewers and desk adjusters are looking for your claim first.
It's funny,
Right? Because
Guy. I
they
was
have a big queue up there that they got to pull everybody out of, and they're looking at, let me grab Chuck because I know I can get through this claim quickly before I have to look at the next guy that his photo report's screwed up. Nothing's in order, his estimate's not in order. And they have to take an hour to just try to figure out what the hell is this guy trying to say to me. And then they
it's
call
funny,
up and
Guy.
ask, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and then when they call up and they ask the adjuster, well, what did you do here? He gets all butthurt because of his ego and says, well, I've been doing this a long time and I'm telling you how it is. Well, show me how it is. Show me consistency, and I'll be able to get through those claims quicker. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the theme of all of this that I'm doing, Chuck, is, I think our industry lacks consistency within the work product that adjusters put out there.
Well,
So
as insecure as I am about what my product actually is like, every time I feel like I get a lot of kickbacks, etc. I was at a conference for the big IA firm that gave me 80-90% of my business the first few years. And a guy comes up to me, he reads my badge, he says, "Oh, you're Chuck. Everybody loves your files. I'm Mark. I'm the head of file review. I'm the head of quality for the IA firm, and everybody likes to get your files." And I said, "Wow, that's great, man. I feel like I'm an imposter all the time."
me too, bro. Me too, for sure.
And yeah, so it you know, you do things as correctly as you can. You're as
Yep,
responsive as you can be when they have things that need to be changed or requests of you, and you just hop on that stuff. You prioritize it above anything else,
correct.
and then you know people will cut you a lot of slack on other stuff if you're hitting
Yep.
those things.
Yeah, I always
Um,
used to tell everybody I like to stay in the 87 to 93 percentile because that's the invisible percentages. Right? You're good enough that they know your work product's pretty good. You're not the best guy, so they're not trying to see what you're doing wrong. You're just kind of in that gray zone of I turn in a consistent work product, I keep my mouth shut, I fix the things you want me to fix, and I move down the road, close the file, get to the next one. Yeah. Hey, the other thing, this is probably a good time for us to transition. Um, we mentioned this a minute ago, is you have probably done more depositions than anybody I know, just for the fact of where you live.
yeah.
Um, and I'm sure that you're really good. So talk to us about depositions. What are they? How they work? What do you do? How much you get paid? All that kind of good stuff. So I'm
Well,
gonna
let me
give
take
it to you.
one step back from there first. I'll say here in South Florida, at least 60% of all the claims I do are represented. And by represented, I mean they're either represented by a public adjuster or they're represented directly by an attorney. Sometimes the attorneys are working with public adjusters, or they have a guy that goes out in the field for them and deals with the field adjuster. But at any rate, the majority of the claims that I work with are represented. And so if you think about it, if you're of the mindset as an insured that before you even see what the insurance company is going to do, you're going to get represented,
Yeah.
you can see that a lot of those claims are going to go to litigation or arbitration, right? They say that South Florida is the fraud capital of the world for medical insurance fraud. I've heard people say that. I have a friend who's a federal investigator, and the medical insurance fraud down here is just gigantic. It's so prevalent that the federal investigators don't even get to property fraud.
Really?
Um, yeah, they say they just can't be bothered. But the property fraud is off the charts, and I feel like people down here see insurance as a way to get some cash rolling
Hmm.
in um,
Right.
when cash doesn't roll in.
Right. So then they
Um,
go and they get a public adjuster before the field adjusters even had the opportunity to um, come out there and try to do a good job for the insurance company. I'll tell
that's
you,
the way
just
it is.
I'm going to interrupt you real quick because during Milton, one of my best friends is up in Bradenton, Sarasota area, right on the
Right.
water. Beautiful multi-million dollar house. Storm came through. They took some drone photos of the roof. You could see that the roof had wind damage on it, enough to replace it. It was definitely, you knew where this was going. And
Right.
the first thing my friend said is, somebody told me I needed to get a public adjuster. I'm like, do not get a public adjuster. Let your adjuster come out there. Let him do his job. Know that you're not getting paid for the whole roof up front. Find a reputable contractor that you can work with, not one of these public adjuster contractors, and then get apples to apples. And his estimate from his adjuster and his contractor it was like $120,000 estimate, but they were within 10% of each other.
Yeah.
And he came back and he was like, well, the insurance company cheated me for $10,000. I'm like, dude, that is nothing. Just have your contractor call him up. He will supplement that all day long. And and his roof is done. I mean, it's since the storm. So he's been able
Yeah.
to do it without getting public adjusters or lawyers involved that now this claim has got to go all the way to arbitration or deposition or settlement. And man, you're not going to get your roof on for 2 years because you're arguing with people.
And not to mention the attorney or the public adjuster has taken 20% of your settlement money.
Right, right,
So that's a big deal too.
right.
Um, but again, I think some people are going to a public adjuster for all the right reasons, but I think that we see a lot of people that are looking to strong arm the insurance company to come to the table with a cash offer, and they want to put that money in the bank.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. But
Yeah,
that's the greed factor of humanity, though, isn't
it is. And
it?
I joke with people that the public adjusters are really the business development engine for my business because they're out there scaring up all these claims that, you know, that I get paid to go out and adjust. So,
Yeah.
um, although I don't like a lot of what they're doing, it is a way that I am able to make a good living.
Yeah. Yeah. So you said your first claim you got deposed on 2 years later.
Yeah, it usually takes a year or two.
So did the insured get their house fixed in that 2 years and they just didn't get enough, or do you
To be
remember at
honest
all?
with you, Guy, I don't know. I don't typically follow up after I submit my report. It's not part of, my purview. And I don't know whether an expert goes out there. I don't know all the behind the scene things. And then I get deposed, and typically I don't remember the inspection or the
Sure.
people. Um, you know, but it doesn't matter because my role in a deposition is, as I said before, is that of a witness. I'm just there to tell what I saw, and I can do that uh, by reviewing my photo sheet, which is usually provided to me by
Uh-huh.
the insurance company's counsel, and I can opine to some degree, um, but my position is always I don't make the coverage decision. If you want to talk to somebody who made the coverage decision, you're talking to the wrong guy. You got to depose the desk adjuster.
Right.
I don't make the cause of loss determination. I give an opinion as to the cause of loss, but the determination is not made by me. And if you want to talk to somebody who made that decision, you depose the wrong guy again. So it's a very easy position to be in, really. And, I've said this to the insurance company's counsel offline a few times, but I feel like really the reason that they depose field adjusters is, the opposing counsel, the counsel that's suing the insurance company,
Uh-huh.
they're they're making billable hours for all these depositions, and they really can't get very much out of somebody like me unless I'm disgruntled, like these guys on 60 Minutes. I don't know if
Right.
you saw this
I
segment
did.
recently. These disgruntled guys who are probably not very good adjusters, from what I could see. But if you got a hold of somebody like that, you might be able to get something out of those guys. But if the guy's doing his job correctly, there's not a whole lot of win for the opposing counsel.
So really, from your perspective as a field adjuster, you go
Right.
out, you do the best you can, you turn in the file, you move on to the next file. 500 files later, you get a phone call from the insurance company that says, "Hey, by the way, you're being deposed."
Yep.
You have no, I can remember people calling me up after the next storm. I'm like, I got no idea who you are. So I can imagine that those claims for you in your head, you're moving on. You're thinking about the last 15 you just did, not the next or the last 500. And
Yep.
so that photo report, again, coming back to photo reports, that photo report is your way of being able to at least come back to the things that you saw, that you said, that you felt is from the
Right.
photo report. And so when
So,
they say, "Why did you do this?" you can say, "Well, when I was standing there, this is why I did it, because I wrote it right there in that photo report."
or what I
Basically,
may
is that,
say
is that
is,
right?
I don't know why I did it, but I can tell you by looking at the photo today, this is what I think.
Uh-huh.
Because I don't have a recollection of doing that claim, not an independent recollection, but I can tell you what I think looking at this thing now. I think there's no peril created opening on your roof.
Right. Or I
Nothing
would,
that I see here looks anything like wind damage,
right.
right?
Right.
So,
I would have noticed
yeah,
that and taken a photo of it if I had seen it at that
yeah,
time.
sure.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So are they, is the opposing counsel like trying to get you to say something? I'm just intrigued by this. They're just trying to
Yeah.
get you to say something that they can use in the future, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I believe so. I believe
Yeah.
they want you to say something that points to you having seen damage but not reporting it, or that the insurance company pressured you to not estimate on something that you saw, like in that 60 Minutes
Right.
that recently came out. But it's interesting. I've heard other adjusters in forums and everything talking about keeping all their files so that if they're deposed, they have all their information. But it's funny, that's not really best practice.
Uh,
What I do, which I believe is best practice, is I keep nothing. I don't keep a scrap of paper. I don't keep a folder on my desktop of any claims. As soon as I turn my claim in, I'm done. And
right.
well, I may keep my scope sheet for a couple of weeks in case something comes back and I didn't put the whole scope sheet in or
Right.
something like that. But basically, I don't keep any notes because when you're deposed, they subpoena all of your notes. And I can say, I don't have any notes. You can't
Wow.
subpoena anything because I don't have anything.
Wow.
And that is the best position to be in. And if you think about it, you don't own the work that you do, it's work for hire. The
Right.
insurance company owns that product.
Right.
And so they're going to keep it. And if you need it at any time for your job, you can request it from them and they'll let you have it. And in today's digital world, you can go into Xactimate and get it back, or you can
Sure.
go into the file tracking system, but you don't need to have it in your house or on your computer. It
Because if
shouldn't be
they ask
resident
you,
there. Yeah,
interesting.
they
So
could they
if
could
they,
literally come in and they could confiscate your computer if they thought you were withholding records.
interesting. And from a field adjuster side, I can't imagine that happening to us too often.
No,
But
never.
man, you just said something after 22 years in this business that has I I didn't do best practice. Let me put it to you that way. But back in the day, we weren't deposed that much. There weren't that many public adjusters and stuff, right? We did our job. And for me, I always kept, and I even told most of my students over the last 12 years that, keep an external thumb drive with that claim. So I knew what I did. But what you're saying makes so much more freaking sense. Oh my God. If I don't have anything, then when I'm being deposed, I don't know anything. All I know is what you're showing me. So I
Right.
can't go
So,
back and say, well, I looked at this photograph. I looked at all my photos from that claim and maybe I took 200 and I only put 100 in the file. Now that becomes
right.
discoverable. Now they look at all those other photos. Now,
And
interesting.
and not only is it discoverable, but you were supposed to have provided them with all of that before the deposition. And
Sure.
so if you didn't do that, then
Sure.
you're in breach.
Sure.
And the other thing is, right now, the way the law is in South Florida, anything you do to refresh your memory before the deposition, any documents you refer to are now discoverable. You've waived privilege on them. So when I'm being prepped for my deposition by the attorney, they say, "Have you read the general loss report?" I say, "I haven't done anything. I will not look at anything except for those documents you provide to me in the state that you provide them to me. So if you want to redact the photo sheet, that's what I'll look at. If you want me to look at the general loss report, I will look at it, but then, opposing counsel can get a hold of it. So it's
Right.
up to you." And so typically nowadays, I'm only looking at a redacted photo sheet during my deposition. It makes opposing counsel crazy pissed off because you're telling them that you don't remember. And when did you first receive this claim? I don't know. I have no recollection. You know, and they said, "Have you done anything to try to refresh your memory?" And I say, "No, I haven't. Have not."
Right.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah. The
it
the last thing you want to do is start opening your mouth and sticking your foot in it, right? And then,
right.
oh well, I thought that yeah.
Well, it's funny. I often say I want the deposition to be super short, and I want them to not you know not be able to get anything from me and be really frustrated. Basically, I
Right.
just want to get in and get out because there's nothing I can positively do for the insurance company,
Right.
really.
Right.
Um,
Exactly.
because I'm not an expert witness. I'm just a witness.
Exactly.
So I'm trying to, basically limit my testimony to what I saw. And basically, as much as we think we're experts at stuff, we're really not. We
Yeah.
don't have degrees in structural engineering. We don't have certification in mold remediation or whatever it is, right? We're not plumbers.
Right. Right. That's why they hire expert witnesses. If you want an expert
Right,
witness, hire an
exactly.
expert witness. That guy will get up and tell you everything you want to know.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's what I say. Actually, I have been known to say that in my deposition.
It's this brings up a thought for me. So um I don't you typically use carriers, but the most of my beginning of my career, I worked for the largest carrier in the country. And they gave us the computers, and they gave us the cameras, and they
Right.
gave us the ink for our printers, and they gave us the printers. And I always used to think, God, they're spending so much money. Why would they do all of that? But at the end of every storm I ever did, I took all of my manila folders. It didn't matter whether they had staples on them or not. I took all of my scope notes. I took everything. I gave them that computer back, and everything went into a shredder in the office. And when I walked away clean. And
Yeah.
so back when I was beginning, I could never figure that out. But you just hit it on the nail on the head, or the head on the nail,
Yeah.
however that goes. But you just said it. I don't want to know what was going on. All I want to know is, here's my photo report. Whatever you're showing me, my GLR or whatever it is. But this looks like mine. It looks like I did this, and I don't see any damage on this roof that, or I would have taken a picture of it and it would have been
Right,
in this folder right here.
right,
Yeah,
right, exactly. If I
yeah,
would have seen it, there would have been a picture of it. Um, what you see here looks nothing like wind damage. I've seen a lot of wind damage during the hurricane times,
right,
and there's no way you could possibly confuse this cracked tile for what wind damage looks like. There's no
right.
way somebody could possibly make a mistake on that,
Yeah,
you know.
that's so crucial. I think, for those that are listening to this, Chuck, that, you know, when it starts coming to lawyers and depositions and all the rest of that, that is a scary process,
Well, it
you
can
know?
be.
Yeah, or not.
Yeah. I'll tell you, here's something that's not scary at all. That's exciting. My buddy made $50,000 this year in addition to his adjusting fees on depositions and legal. So typically we get paid for a deposition, we get paid for prep time, we get paid for being served, and we get paid for doing affidavits, you know. But
Right?
all that legal money together for him was over $50,000. And it's, you know, it's not a bad way to make money. I mean, I I get paid by one carrier that I work for. Um, it's not just for the deposition, but for the deposition, the prep, and for being served, the money to me is over $1,000, and the deposition itself very rarely takes 2 hours.
Wow.
So it's probably on an hourly basis the best that I get paid for doing anything. So depose me.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to have a couple of depositions every week, and some weeks I do, you know.
Right?
But if I could week in, week out do two depositions in addition to my claims, man, that would be really fat. It'd be great.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. So so and this again, this all comes back to where you're at, right? Being in South Florida. But
Yes.
um do you is there more now? I mean, have the laws changed a bit down there recently or anything? I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
I think the laws have changed, making it much more difficult for the public adjusters and the attorneys. For one thing, the attorney's fees are not recoverable anymore. So
Oh,
that's a big deal.
sure.
Um, Also, companies like Citizens, who, for those of you who don't know, it's the insurer of last
Resort.
resort. It's the state-owned insurance company,
Right.
but they write very, very tight policies. And, you know, for example, they have a $10,000 water damage
Uh-huh.
limit. And now you'll see that other companies are following suit with similar language in their policies.
Hmm.
And so it's harder and harder for people to, you know, bring
Run a
these,
scam on it.
right, run a big scam on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unfortunately, it does wind up hurting some insureds. Um, you know, they don't have the coverage that they probably would have had a few years ago.
Sure.
Um, but you know, the market is such now that um, insurance companies can't afford to be down here unless they keep things very tight on their policies.
Yeah. Well, and that's it's the unfortunate reality of that is there's more storms and more storms and more storms. And
Right.
now that the policies are getting 1, 2, 5% deductibles,
Yep.
before you call in that policy, really go up there. If you only have 3 shingles missing on the roof, you might as well not nail down a tarp covering the whole damn thing, right? Because you can get it
Yeah.
fixed and it's going to come out of your own pocket typically.
I mean, before I started this, like I said, I didn't know anything about insurance. Um, but I've tried to learn as I do and, try to pick up as much as I can. I heard a actuary on NPR talking about insurance and the insurance market. But the question that the reporter asked her was, how do you insure your own home? And her answer was interesting. She said, I shopped for the highest deductible possible. Why is that? Because I can shoulder the risk on a small loss,
Right,
but I can't afford a big risk on a big loss. And
right.
so she got a $15,000 deductible on her policy. She said over the last 20 years, she had 2 claims, or what could have been 2 claims, and she had to pay out of pocket. But she still figures she's way ahead on premiums of where she would have been if she would have had a more normal policy.
Right.
So, an actuary, somebody who does this for a living, is saying, you know, basically insure for catastrophic and pay out of pocket on
That's
lower claims.
healthcare too, right?
Yeah,
Until
yeah,
I
as
turn
well.
until I turn 65 and still Cheryl's under 65 at this point.
Yeah,
Um, we've always insured for catastrophic.
yeah. I mean, you
I'll
can't afford
I'll
to.
pay the doctors $150 if I have to.
Yeah,
But if I break my leg, I want somebody to fix it. If my house burns down, I want somebody to fix it.
right,
If
exactly.
Right. But the hot water heater that breaks, that I mopped all of the water out of the house, maybe that's a $10,000 fix or something. And that would help contractor pricing and all the rest of that stuff if people did more of that.
Everybody wants to pick the pocket of the insurance company.
Sure.
And that's something that I've learned since I've been doing this is that, you know, the contractors' prices are especially high, and the PAs and attorneys and everybody wants the
But,
roofers, everybody wants the insurance company money. They don't
yeah,
want a normal fair rate. They want a super inflated rate.
yeah. Hey, I'm going to tell you another story from way back in the old days. So when I first started, the insured went and they found their contractor of choice. We wrote the estimate. They found the contractor of choice. We got in touch with the contractor of choice. We negotiated the final, and that was it. There were no supplements. There were no anything else. We literally talked to the contractor and said, okay, man, we're off by, and back in those days, 10% was a lot. Because if I
Mhm.
wrote my estimate right and he was an honest roofer, then we knew what they were going to be. And so it was always pretty easy. And now that, and this came along like 2008 and 9 when the storm chasers started coming up, right?
Yeah.
And that was the same thing in Florida, right? After Katrina and all the rest of that stuff, all the storm chasers and the PAs and everybody starts coming out and we all wonder why we pay so much for insurance. Well, you know, part of that reason is that people are all out there trying to scam the insurance company.
So, Guy, right before you called, I was on the phone for 40 minutes with a PA because we had some tornadoes here around Hurricane Milton, especially
Uh-huh.
north of me. And the PA and I did an inspection together of a property. It's a forced place claim. So that means that the borrower, what the person that's typically the insured is not the insured. It's the
Right.
bank that's the insured. But the PA represents the borrower. He doesn't represent the bank, right? So it's a
Uh-huh.
little bit of a strange situation. But what I wanted to say was I wrote a big estimate for this place. I wrote an $83,000 estimate, and the PA's estimate was over $280,000. And then the carrier asked me, can you get on the phone with this guy and see if you can bring yourselves to a common scope? And I said, I don't think I can because we saw the same things,
Right.
you know. And I know I didn't write a lean estimate. I wrote the best estimate I could write. And so, unless you want me to, you know, to give away things, I don't think I can change very much. There may be a few things that I overlooked. I'll look at his photo sheet and listen to him, you
Right.
know. But I start going through the estimate with the guy, and for example, I wrote to replace the roof, and my roof estimate was actually $5,000 more than his on material, but he was $25,000 more than me on on associated fees, right? So he's
Right.
just padding the ever living heck out of everything. He, for example, he replaced all the sheathing on the roof. And I said to him, hey, man, I didn't see any broken sheathing or any damaged sheathing. Do you have any photos of any of that? He said, well, the tornado was really strong. I said, yeah, I know it's really strong, but like we should see broken sheathing or, there should be something. And he said, well, I can see if I can get somebody to write it. I said, well, you can see whatever you want to see, but I can't write to resheathe the roof based on you want to, charge another $15,000 for sheathing. And
Right.
by the way, he also had a line item for renailing the sheathing. I said to him, look, you can either renail the sheathing that's there or you can replace new sheathing, but you can't renail the new sheathing. But at any rate, that's $20,000 worth of difference in our estimate right there.
Yep.
But that's very representative of the kind of BS. I always say I have to write nonfiction. I can sometimes write fiction based on fact, but these
Right.
guys are writing fantasy.
Yeah.
They're in fantasy land what they're writing,
Well, and they
and
use they
it's
use
very
macros.
difficult.
I worked with a PA once down in Phoenix, and when I looked at his estimate, same kind of thing. And I looked at the estimate, I'm like, well, this is all fluff,
Yep.
right? And so when I actually started talking, I didn't talk to the estimator, I talked to the actual PA. I got him
Yeah,
on the phone. And I'm
that's
like,
a
look
problem
at
too because they don't
right.
know. Yeah.
I need the boss who makes decisions, not some guy who writes stuff. But after we started going through it, he was like, well, we usually just drop macros in.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, awesome. I'm glad you drop a macro in, but you got to fricking go through the macro and fix it to what's
Yeah.
actually there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
It doesn't
interesting.
matter. It doesn't matter what's real. It just matters that they get a big number. That's all.
And again, that whole negotiation thing, they inflate it by 100%. so they can come down 50% so they can make 50%.
Right.
And
And, for me, it's just a big pain in the ass to have to go back and do these things.
yeah,
Typically, the carriers, I've got four of these things that I got to do this weekend, but the carriers typically pay you like your fee is $150 for a supplement.
right.
And that means you're making 60% of 150 for this supplement. You got to reopen a file you haven't looked at for a long time. You got to look at the PA's crazy estimate. You got to look at your estimate. You got to go line by line. You got to talk to the idiot PA on the phone. You know, then you got to write everything up line by line, room by room, and you make a big $90.
Yeah, yeah.
But on the other hand, I made $1,000 for depositions.
In the same week.
Yeah, in the same week, exactly.
Yeah,
So
it
you
all
get the
works
good,
out.
you get the bad, right?
You take whatever comes. Yeah,
Right,
but
exactly.
that's another thing I think um, that the industry hasn't quite picked up on for us is if you want me to do a supplement that's add starter row to the roof or, you know, maybe paint the room 2 coats or whatever, that's easy. But if you're telling me to look at an 80,000, my 80 and this guy's 220, that is not $90.
Yeah, no,
Just the time. And
yeah,
they're just sending everything out and everybody gets paid the same. I get it.
yeah.
Well, hey, Chuck,
Once in a while, they'll give you, T&E on something like that.
exactly.
But
So, brother, we are running at an hour and I have not talked to you about everything I want to talk to you about.
cool.
Um, I'm gonna pick you up again here in another few weeks because I want to talk to you about doing liability claims.
Oh, okay, sure.
Okay, because you and I had talked about that on the phone, and you were saying that they're not that hard. They're actually time and expense. You get paid pretty good for them, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's been really good. The last couple of months, I've really made some very good money with them.
So in 3 minutes or less, because we're already at an hour, dude, I did one of these last week and it was an hour and 45 minutes. And I'm like, nobody is going to listen to my BS for an hour and 45 minutes. I got to cut these things done. So in 3 minutes or less, tell me about liability claims and then we'll do a longer version later.
Okay, so your typical claims that typical adjusters are adjusting for are first party claims. They're claims where um, the insured has damage to their property and we're helping them to get made whole on the damage, right?
Hmm.
That's how it typically works. But on a liability claim, the insured somehow caused or contributed to damage to a third party's property. So a very
My car drove through your house, something
right.
like that. Yeah.
Now I don't do a lot of stuff that's not property related. And so for property liability, it tends to be condominiums. My condominium's water heater leaked and it damaged the unit below me
Hmm.
is I don't know what percentage of what I do is that, but it's a big percentage.
Sure.
And sometimes some crazy things. I just did one last week where the landscaper um, who was insured, his guy drove the lawnmower into the claimant's swimming pool and damaged the
Really?
swimming pool somehow. I still don't know how exactly that happened because I don't have to know how it happened. I just have to estimate the damages in this particular case.
Right.
Um, so a lot of first party claims are not coming coming to fruition these days because people are afraid to take a claim out. They think the insurance company is going to jack up their rates. So there's a decrease in first party claims, but in third party claims, there is no such decrease. And so there's a lot of liability claims out there.
Sure.
Liability claim could be a personal injury claim. It could be a lot of things like that. I've done some personal injury. I don't really enjoy it that much. Bodily injury. A lot of that work is detective work kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
And some people really get a kick out of it. I have a friend who does only liability for Citizens now. And, he's full time with Citizens.
Right.
And they pay him 10 grand a month. It's a good gig.
Right.
And he doesn't have much overtime and he doesn't have much, rush.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's a good way to make some money. That's not the typical way of making some money. And we all have all lines licenses, so we
Sure.
can do any of these liability claims.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, for 12 years, all I told everybody is all I know is property.
Yep.
And now that you're mentioning it, I've done a bunch of liability claims. I just never thought about it as that it was actually
Yeah.
considered a
Yeah, me
liability
too.
claim.
Before I started, I had done them,
Right.
right. All the condo claims, or half the condo claims.
Right. Right. Well, hey, Chuck, I'm gonna have to let you go here. Thank you so much for doing this. I hope this was really good for those that are out there listening to us. I will definitely have you back on. You're a great guy to talk to for sure.
Thanks,
Uh,
Guy. I hope the people listening could get some things out of it. It's not too specific to me. I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to talking to you again soon.
yeah, and you'll get the these will start sometime. I figure by the end of January, but they're going to come out once a week. And if you ever come up with an awesome story of an insured or somebody that you want to talk about, just let me know and we'll do little short 15, 20-minute ones too. So I really
Awesome.
appreciate you. I appreciate everybody that's out there listening. Like I said, these are not out yet, but by the time somebody listens to you, Chuck, there would probably have been 5 or 6 of them before you. So,
Awesome. Thank you
anyways,
very much, Guy.
yeah.
Take care. Have a very happy New Year.
Check out more adjuster stories with Guy Grand right here.